Hey guys, welcome back to our walkthrough of classic poetry. Well, today we're not actually going to do a walkthrough of classic poetry. I thought today we'd go over one of my own original compositions called A Summer Dream. Now, this is a poem that I actually composed for two characters in the story series I've been writing called The Banished Lands. And if you don't mind a minute of shameless self-promotion, here it is. You can find it on Amazon. It's a 4-book series. It's in the fantasy genre. It's a lot like Lord of the Rings. It's just a good old-fashioned story. It's got a lot of good poetry in it. At least I think it's pretty good. And I'm sure you'll love it, so go check it out. But as always, this poem is written down below so you can follow along as I read aloud. Here's A Summer Dream. The crashing waves spray mist across the land. We walk upon the sunlight in the sand. The mirrored rays gleam cold beneath our feet, while golden on our backs is felt the heat. In step with woven hands we stride the shore, and my thoughts drift back to all the times before I met you, the uneventful days that marked a man resigned and heedless of his ways. I should have been more, should have known the better things that were in store. And sighing long out over the deep blue sea, I feel your burning gaze glance to me. That sight in all the world I love the best, green eyes half hid by golden hair, and again I feel at rest. I hope you like that. It's just a nice little love poem. It's one of my favorite poems that I've written, and it's just a couple that's taking a walk down the beach. They're kind of in between the land and the sea, right? They're not quite in the sea yet, but they're not still on the dry of the land. They're at that place where the waves are sliding up the shore, and the gleaming sun is reflecting off the wet sand, and it's cold beneath their feet. And if you've never had that experience, it's actually pretty striking because obviously the ocean is very cold in most places unless you're in Hawaii. So if you're walking along the wet sand and you're feeling the heat of the sun on your back and the cold of the wet sand beneath your feet, even though you're walking on the reflected sunlight, it's a pretty striking experience. It kind of reminds me of when I go to the Northwoods in the winter, and we often go in the sauna. And when it gets too hot, we'll come outside and we'll go find a patch of snow, and we'll take a big scoopful of it and then go back in the sauna and put the scoopful of snow on top of our heads. And it's just such a thrilling feeling of being both icy cold in places and also burning hot in other places. Like, thrilling is really the only word that can adequately describe it. And so this experience that the couple is having of experiencing the dichotomy of both heat and cold, and also kind of being in between places, between the land and the sea, it's actually metaphorical of what is happening through the rest of the poem. Because going forward, the man in this couple is also experiencing a dichotomy within his heart emotionally. Because while he's trying to find a lot of joy in the presence of this woman that he's obviously very in love with, he's also experiencing a lot of sorrow too, because he's thinking about his life and his shortcomings as a man before he met her, and it's causing a lot of sorrow in his heart. He's thinking about his life. He's like, man, I wish I would have lived better. I should have known better, right? He says, I could have been more, and I should have been more. I should have known I was going to meet somebody like you eventually, and I shouldn't have lived a life of resignation. I should have been a better man before I met you. And so even though he's feeling a lot of joy at knowing this person and being with her, he's also feeling a lot of sorrow. So he's experiencing an inner dichotomy of sorrow and joy, while he's also experiencing a physical dichotomy of heat and cold. And he's also trapped between places, right? Just like he's in between the land and the sea physically, he's also kind of trapped in between the present and the past, because he's trying to live fully in the moment, right? Like, not waste any of these precious moments with her, but he keeps being tugged back into the past and living in the past. So this physical state that they're in provides a metaphor for the emotional state that he's also experiencing. And as he is ruminating over his life and just thinking about all this, he turns and he sets his gaze out over the deep blue sea, right? And he lets out a long sigh, which finally makes her take note. We didn't talk a whole lot about her before this point in the poem, and she pauses as well, and she turns to him, and he's probably thinking, uh-oh, she caught me again being hard on myself, right? Because it says he feels her burning gaze that's now fixed on him. And so that's why I love the beauty of the poem, of how, even though he's being really hard on himself and he's just experiencing this regret and this sadness, when he finally turns his gaze to meet hers away from the deep blue sea, and to meet her gaze, all that sadness and sorrow and regret melt away, right, in the light of her gaze, and he feels that wonderful sense of peace and rest wash over him. That's what I love, about the poem, is that conclusion of rest and peace that he feels when he just meets her gaze again, and all the former things that he was worried about just melt away. And I think the reason why I really enjoy this poem more than a lot of the other poems that I've written is because it deals with that theme, which is one of my favorite themes of redemption, right? I love the word redeemer and redemption, because genuine love is really the only force on the planet that actually possesses the power of redemption, of being able to take something that is evil or hurting or broken and to actually transform it and redeem it so that it becomes a force for good instead. Without genuine love, I mean, the best that we can do is just tolerate evil things or have patience and bear with hurting people and hurtful situations, right? We can be strong and have patience and just sweep things under the rug. But without genuine love, we can't actually transform those things, and we can't redeem them so that they become forces for good. And to me, that's one of just the glorious things about genuine love, is that it is the only force on the planet that possesses the power of redemption, which is just one of the coolest forces on the planet, of taking something that was evil or hurting or broken and transforming it so it becomes a force for good. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is when Jesus went to go eat dinner at this religious man's house. And it says that this religious man wasn't particularly nice to Jesus. He was kind of rude. And he didn't give Jesus any water for his feet, which was a custom in that culture. And he didn't give him any oil for his head, which I guess was also customary in ancient Jewish culture. And so Jesus goes in and dines with him, and during the meal it says that this woman comes in who is very distraught. She's obviously very troubled, and she comes over to Jesus and breaks down at his feet. And it says she begins to weep. And as she's weeping, it says that she starts to clean his feet with her tears and with her hair. And this religious man, he's appalled. He's thinking, Jesus, why are you letting this happen? This woman is creating a scene. Like, what's wrong with you? Put a stop to this. That's what it says that he's thinking. And Jesus, being Jesus, turns to him and says, do you see this woman? You didn't give me any water to wash my feet, and she's been washing my feet with her tears. And you didn't give me any oil for my head, but it says that she brought a jar of perfume and broke it, and it was very expensive perfume, and it said she anointed his head with perfume as a sign of honor and respect. And he said, you didn't give me any oil for my head, but this woman has anointed me with expensive perfume. It says, even though her sins are many, she loves much because she's been forgiven much. And you, religious man, love little because you've been forgiven little. It's that idea of redemption, where even though you have done so many things that you regret and wish you didn't do, when you allow genuine love to redeem you, you actually become a force for greater good than you would have been had you had not otherwise even done those things. And that's why I absolutely love the theme of redemption, because genuine love is really the only force on the planet that possesses the power to redeem things like that. And so I hope you enjoyed this poem. Sorry, I got sidetracked a little bit there at the end, but I just love the theme of redemption, in poetry and in love stories. So like I said before, if you want to check out my work on Amazon, there it is again. I'd love for you to check it out. It would help me out a lot. And thanks so much for coming on all these walkthroughs. Hoping to do some more in the near future. And I'd love feedback from any of you on this poem that I've done. Tell me what your thoughts are on it, and I look forward to seeing you next time.